So, hey everybody, looks like we're on. So, just let me know if the volume is good, if the visual is good. So, welcome to our Saturday meditations. So, yeah, let me know if this is working. So, just write a comment. I'm never sure about these things. All right, so I see some people online, so I think we're on. All right, looks great. Okay, hey guys. So there's Frequency Girl, there's Olaf, there's Edith, Francesca, Etsy, Christine. Hey, perfect, great. And the volume's okay? All right. So, yes, I've been traveling a bit. I was in Kerala, in South India, where I'm in the process of buying some land. And it's a beautiful piece of land next to the national forest. And my idea would be to create a little community there. Olaf, you remember we were talking about Gaia's gardens, and these would be like little communities all over the world where people could come together, just co-create something with and of Gaia. So this is the next paradigm that we are actually moving into. How do we come together? How do we support each other in a way that we are working with Gaia rather than against her? So this piece of land, it's up in the mountains. It's about an hour from the sea. It's next to waterfalls. It's got its own water, and it's really fertile soil for growing food. But ultimately, it's a place that people can gather to do creative work, to do whatever is needed, to build the light body, to create the next Earth community that we're here to participate in. So, Olaf, wow, my whole being gets energized hearing you talk about creating a community, Kiara. And this is something we've talked about for so long, many of us. So I think some of you know that I met this guy, Anthony, and he's already been working to manifest this in many places around the world and wants me to participate. So we have a place in France, in Portugal, Romania, Kenya, Tanzania, now this one in India, Belarus, and perhaps other places in the world. So what we're basically looking at is for those who feel called to come and join, to come and join in whatever ways are conducive. So we do have some money. We're working with some people who are basically here to create this new Earth community, not about profiteering, not about investing to gain something back, but to support what we're here to do for Gaia and with Gaia. So it's a project that I've been dreaming about for a long time, and I think many of us have. So let's see where we go, and let's see where those of you who are called to join, wherever it may be, and maybe there's new places which haven't been thought about yet. There's friends of mine in Rhode Island who are looking at a community in that region. And then what's that? The islands of Spain. Gran Canary Islands, and so on. Aspasia, wow, such a lovely idea. I would love to have the opportunity to visit and help around and in all these places. Yes, indeed, me too. Um, there's soon as the visa situation gets straightened out, I'd love for you guys to come out here to Kerala. And I'm really interested in going out to some of these other places too. And we're also talking about Egypt. We have the boat with Patti, who's my Belgian friend. And we've been going out every year to swim with dolphins. And this is ongoing through the year. And there's a boat that she's selling, which may be available for these projects also. So, yeah, so let's go create. Let's see where we all go with this. I think what I'd like to start off with this morning, as far as the meditation, is just all the way out and then come back in. So, who are I? Who am I? Who are we? And looking at that multidimensional source point whence it all started. Well, starting is not the right word because we are starting outside of time and space, but where we are sourced. So who am I? What am I? And if we can connect with that place within, which is everything and everywhere, which is all there is, all there ever will be, all that has been, in all its multiplicity, in all its power, in all its beauty. And then the recognition that we're stepping into time and space to begin an experiment, a voyage within eternity, to experience ourselves in diversity, to build something that's never been built, to experiment with new ways of perception and reflection of who we are. So through these long ages across the universe, creating a veil within time and space within which we can enter, apparently separate, but never really so. And then within that apparent separateness, to create new possibilities of how we can recognize ourselves in each other and how we can evolve together back into source, so that we are both divine, human, spirit, matter, all at the same time. So we can experience ourselves in all our multiplicity and our mastery. So we start there and then gradually enter into various manifestations, taking on various subtle bodies and then physical bodies, entering into these bodies, recognizing ourselves within these bodies, opening up doorways to various levels of perception, creating a game of life where we have learned to identify reality in certain ways. And in this reality, on this earth, at this time, it's to learn through what we call duality. So we have seasons of life, we have seasons of destiny. And it's been a long time that we've traveled in this wave of duality. And unfortunately, that time is done, or fortunately, as the case may be. And I say both because to shift from one cycle to another is not easy. For the aspect of us that's identified with, which is fixated with certain forms of duality, it's not easy to shift out of that. And many of us are going through that transformation right now. that sense of disentanglement, uh, disidentification, dismembering, of entering into the cocoon and dissolving. And then from that space, something new emerges, uh, which we don't know yet. And this is what we're here to create and to support each other in creating, not just as a human species, but as a planetary organism with multiple species of life, visible, invisible, large and small, within, beyond, and surface. And so here we are to experiment. What does this experiment look like? Let's see. Let's see where we go with this. It's all an experiment. We're all part of this experiment. But we're here because we're chosen. We choose ourselves. We're chosen by Gaia. We've chosen ourselves as part of this divine destiny. So it's not a small thing. It's not a small thing to shift out of something that's familiar, known, and yet at the same time limited into something altogether new, which hasn't been seen and experienced yet. So we have guideposts along the way. My guides along the way have been primarily people like Sri Aurobindo and the Mother who have set the vision. And many of the masters, the yogis, the mystics, the ascended masters and teachers that we have come across in so many traditions, ancient Indian and Egyptian, Inca, Celtic, ancient and modern, the alchemical path, which is about the transmutation of heavy, dense energies. Basically, what we have identified as duality, the idea of separation, the appearance of good and bad, right and wrong, and to transform that into what we'll see, because we're here to experience that in human form, within diversity, and yet at the same time not limited by the so-called limitations within matter. And ultimately, these are not limitations that exist within physical matter. They're limitations of the mind that we've created, that we've identified with, and now we get to transmute and release. So Edith is asking, is there a website or more information on it, Kiara? I don't know, not yet. We're in the early stages of this. So, I first met Anthony about a year ago. He organized a workshop for me in Belgium. And then he was going to be my publisher. So there's several books out there which, have not really been promoted so much. Different translations that have been kind of halfway there. So he was going to organize, pull it together, and then he got involved in other projects, and specifically working with a team of others who are working with this project. So this is the first stages of this. So we do have the funding to move forward, to buy property, to create the infrastructure. Now it's up to us to get the right people together. And if anyone resonates to this, you're the right people. So it's a self-identifying process. And there's so many of us who for so many years have been looking at this idea of community, which have failed for so many reasons. Much of it because of variances of intention, human ego. Um, and as we align with the larger plan, a larger purpose, as we align with Mother Earth, with the soul of Gaia, that becomes our guiding force, that becomes our attunement together. So it's an experiment of letting go of hierarchical models and stepping into co-creative models. And it's not easy, of course, because all of us have one foot in both worlds. But it's an experiment that many of us have come to this earth to support and to participate in now. And so I'm putting this forth. My friend David at Age of Pandora has a very similar vision. We need to maybe talk about this more and how we can co-create something along with Anthony and so many others. So there's friends of mine who are in the process of buying 100 acres of land in Rhode Island. This could also be a community. There's another friend of mine who has 100 acres in Brazil, which he wants to make available as well. There's another friend who has some land near Tiruvannamalai, the sacred mountain in Tamil Nadu, South India. It's called Singing Heart. And I think as we start to let go of the hold of duality on human systems, the governance, the financial systems, as we step into what Simon Parkes and Charlie Ward are referring to as the quantum financial system, as we are stepping into more of a self sustaining political model, Gaia's gardens, and we become Gaia's gardens or guardians. So it's like, yes, that's where we are going, and that's where we're creating from. So yes, self-sustenance is part of it. Creativity is a big part of it. So those who feel called to write, to teach, to do, to create movies, educational materials, to work with children, the new model of schooling, all these things, we've had this vision for a long time. It's not new, but here's an opportunity now for those who are choosing to come together to make this happen. And to travel and to celebrate this earth. It's not all about work, it's not all about struggle. It's about celebration, it's about love, it's about beauty, it's about creativity, it's about joy, it's about lightness, it's about divinity within humanity. And for such a long time, we've worked on the model of suffering. This whole idea of working by the, what's it called? By the sweat of your brow and all that stuff. That whole model of unless you suffer, unless you struggle, you can't achieve anything. Playfulness, joy, co-creativity, that's a different model. It has to do with celebrating. And yes, there's going to be work involved, but it's not work in the sense that it weighs us down. And much of our global sustenance systems have been about a deep state model, where a certain few on top of the pyramid have been controlling, subjugating the rest, and creating a model of work, of governance, of survival, where the many are serving the few in a very top-down, soulless kind of way. And that's changing. No matter what's happening politically, and many of us have talked about what's going on with the deep state, and these are good questions. But no matter what is happening on the outside, there's something new being built on the inside. And it's nothing to do with what humans uh, are deciding on outer levels. It's what Gaia is choosing on inner levels. It's a cycle of life. It's a cycle of um, divine expression. And if we begin from that place, if we identify ourselves as that divinity, then there's nothing to worry. We just find our place within the wheel of life and celebrate what we're here to create. Hey, Elna, Marianne from the Big Island. Wow, wonderful. Buongiorno, Christine. Reni from the Netherlands. Jojo. Wonderful. Michelle from France. 12th Dimension from New Zealand. Rena. Alina. Anna. Cor. Rachel. Yeah, so it's wonderful to be part of this team. And I know for myself that I feel like a whole new wave is coming. Um, there's so many things I've been committed to in my life. Different models of teaching, a lot of traveling, going through my own training, my own process along the way. And something new is emerging, and I'm not sure exactly what that's going to look like. And it's not here yet. And I think that's true for many of us. It's like we're waiting, we're in line for something to actually materialize on the outer level before we know what the model will look like. But we can start creating the infrastructure. That's what we're doing now. Frequency Girl from Canada. Gloria. Buongiorno. Yeah, Edith is referring to Charlie and Simon about the quantum financial system. I was listening to Simon this morning where he talks about, the quantum financial system is a name that we use. And it's not that the outer model is so different, but the consciousness behind it is new. And the consciousness behind it is about not that the earth belongs to us somehow and we get to exploit global resources and human resources, but we actually get to serve humanity and Gaia. And from that intention, a different model of financial exchange emerges naturally. So what we're talking about is a shift in consciousness. And that consciousness then leads to a shift in finances and politics, education, child raising, our responsibility and relationship with Mother Earth and with each other, how relationships work, what's priority for each of us in our own lives, how we shape our destiny, how we understand our purpose and find the resources, find the power to live that purpose, how we can connect with our multidimensional self rather than living in the self-imposed limitations that we've become stuck in for so many thousands of years, what we call the matrix. And the thing about transformation and change is that it may be a long, slow process to get to a certain place of metamorphosis. But once the process begins, then things happen very quickly. Uh, what's happening with cosmic cycles is a reflection of this. What's going on the Earth today? We've been preparing for what's called a magnetic excursion or magnetic reversal, where the magnetic poles of the Earth, which we've known for a long time as a dipole, a north and a south axis, slightly at variance with the geographical axis. Now that's changing. So if this is the geographical axis, the magnetic axis has been changing in relationship to that very exponentially. In the last 200 years, the field strength has been weakening significantly, and the direction of the north and the south pole have been changing. Not opposite each other, but at right angles to each other. So while the North Pole shifts in this direction, the South Pole shifts in this direction, coming to a point of convergence. So there's a point of convergence on one side of the Earth, somewhere near Bali, a point of convergence on the other side of the Earth, somewhere in the Bermuda region. So you have the Devil's Triangle here, you have the Bermuda Triangle here. It's no wonder that these are very significant magnetic anomalies already, where strange things have been known to happen. So, as this new polarity is created, there's a shift in our relationship with our subtle bodies, because everything is can only be perceived in relation to the Earth's magnetic field. Our connection with our subtle bodies, with the etheric body, with the subtle bodies, the causal body, is through the Earth's magnetic field. And so many of us are experiencing advanced stages of that, or not advanced, but um, the first stages of that, what some people refer to as ascension symptoms, where you feel like you're losing aspects of your mind, aspects of your identity, your emotional balance, your physical um, integrity, in order to create something different. And we don't know what that is in these bodies. So it's all a huge, big, grand experiment. And all of this has to do with the Earth's magnetic field. So as the new magnetic field is being anchored, Gaia is working with us, or we are working with Gaia in this process. So it's not just humans that are responsible to make this happen. It's a much bigger plan than this. And if we are locked into identifying only as humans, we lose it. We lose this possibility of stepping beyond our current ability to experience reality. Anna says, "This is beautiful and very much needed. Everything points out to humanity returning back to community life, supporting, appreciating each other, being grateful for unity is the point of creation." Christine says, "Gene keys were a lot of help for me to understand my higher purpose." Yeah. I have that big book. It's a really big, thick book, which I haven't opened yet. So I'm really curious to find out more about these gene keys and what our own gene keys are and how that guides our evolutionary destiny. Jasmine from New Zealand. Wonderful. So let's do a quick meditation. So we started with our cosmic identity, or with our source identity beyond time and beyond space as infinite consciousness. So let's step down through time, through space. Within, we're entering into um, a more or less physical creation. It's not just dense physical, it's many layers of physicality, which we refer to as densities. So when we talk about third density, fourth, fifth, sixth, and higher densities, we're talking about different layers of physicality in which we can experience realities. So each of these levels of physicality is associated with certain dimensions, with certain abilities, with certain senses. The third dimension or the third density is the most limited of these. We have perceptions, we call them the five senses, which each of them are operating within a very narrow band of functioning. And what we're doing now is starting to stretch these bands. And as we stretch those bands, we create resonances between different bodies, the physical body, the etheric, emotional, mental, causal, and so on. So as we begin to stretch and include more and more of these bodies within our experience of who we are, we're actually waking up to our divinity, to our multidimensionality, to the next human species that's evolving. So as we come down through these dimensions, these densities, we move through a cosmic identity where we have an experience of physical consciousness as a galaxy or as a solar system, as a star, as a planet. In our solar system, on our planet, is Gaia, Mother Earth. We have an identity as Gaia, which is quite different from our identity as an individualized human. As an individualized human, we're limited to one incarnation, to one set of memories that has to do with the mental, emotional body that we've developed in a particular lifetime and in relationship to prior lifetimes. But it's a very limited identity. As we stretch this identity and join with our planetary identity, and that joins and connects with our solar, galactic, cosmic, universal identities, it's the journey back to source. So there's a journey from source, involution, and there's a journey back to source, evolution. So involution and evolution, like the out breath and the in breath of God, of Brahma. And many traditions talk about this. And what's happening now is this transition between the out breath and the in breath. So this is the key moment. This happens periodically. There's cycles known as yugas in the Indian tradition. They're known by other names in other traditions. In the Inca tradition, it's something else. Pachacuti is that time of transformation, of turning upside down. But there's a name beyond that. Well, the Incas talk about these different suns. They talk about the movement from the first, second, third, fourth, fifth sun, and now we're in the sixth sun, emerging into the sixth sun. These are all relative to each other, and our human memories only go back so far. In oral history, written history, in conscious awareness. All of this is written within the Akashic records, and they can be tapped into as we expand our perceptions. And then we go beyond the human records into the cosmic records. understand who we are as cosmic beings. And truly, an ascended master is one who has integrated their cosmic, galactic, solar, planetary, and personal levels of identity. So, so they can see the big picture. They can awaken within this big picture to what we are here to become. And that becoming has to do with our being. We are already what we are becoming. It's just a different manifestation. It's entering into physicality, into the diversity of physical form, and becoming what we are. So imagine you looking out through these physical eyes at another physical creature and recognizing that you're literally the same consciousness, encountering each other to the extent that there's no separation and there's no fear. There's no enmity, there's no scarcity, there's no competition because you're an aspect of each other. You're all an aspect of one consciousness, not struggling anymore, but striving to achieve self-awareness more and more in deeper and deeper ways. Hey, Guru. How do you spell that? How do you pronounce that? Guru? Unknown. Hi. So Anna says the book Resilience from the Heart by Greg Braden wonderfully presents the essence of communities. Greg Braden is one of my key teachers too. One of his first books, I haven't read most of his books actually, but the first book, Awakening to Zero Point, where he talks about two key processes. One being the magnetic field of the earth weakening, and the other being the vibrational frequency of the earth increasing. And as the magnetic field weakens, and as the vibrational frequency grows, at a certain point they cross. So that's the 0 point that he's referring to, where a new input, a cosmic input, new galactic information or divine intervention takes place, and something new is implanted in the collective consciousness of humanity, so that we can then achieve a vibrational shift, an evolutionary shift, and grow into becoming a new species. So what we were talking about earlier as these Gaia's gardens are basically experimental model communities where we can learn how to anchor what this new species is about. All right, so let's connect with Gaia, and so we'll link up with the heart of Gaia, and then just surrender to her vision, to her unfoldment as she's creating these models through us. So just take a moment, stretch yourself out. For those who've learned how to do this through the Inca bubble, opening that window, go ahead and do that. If there's other meditation practices that have assisted you with this, the sound current or vipassana, just begin to link with your subtle dimensional self or multidimensional self. And as you do so, feel yourself connecting now with the soul of Gaia. How do you experience Gaia? She's an intelligence far, far beyond our human intelligence. Whereas a human intelligence tends to focus more on the rational level of the mind, Gaia's intelligence goes far beyond that. Just as we have within our own bodies different kinds of cells, different systems, so does Gaia, except that her cells and her systems have to do with entire kingdoms, various plant and animal, mineral, human, cetacean, and other kingdoms of life, both visible and invisible, within the earth and beyond the earth. Angelic, archangelic, builders and dragons. Some species that we consider mythological, not really extant anymore, but they're all part of Gaia's consciousness. And within her consciousness, time has a different reality. It's not our past or present or future. It's a different order of time, and is therefore a different order of space. And as we link into the heart of Gaia, we're linking into this alternate time-space reality. It's a space where the future is already present, and the past is not a linear point in time, but has multiple points of entry, which we can experience in the now. So as we connect with the heart of Gaia, the soul of Gaia, we're entering into this multidimensional space and time. Allow yourself to enter into this place of absolute knowing that there's a divine destiny and a plan which is being fulfilled very purposefully, very efficiently, very powerfully, very beautifully, despite all the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, as Hamlet would call it, despite all the battles of dark and light, good and evil that we have tended to identify with. As we connect with the soul of Gaia, we find ourselves slipping outside of this experience of duality as a primary identity. Yes, of course, we're here on this earth in physical form. We're here on this earth to defend our planet, to serve her in a beautiful, multidimensional form. to protect, to guard, to fulfill this plan. But we're not limited in the way that we've been taught. Our conditioning is like a hypnotic trance that runs so deep that we don't even realize that it's only one out of many possibilities. And so as we connect to Gaia, we're connecting with this multidimensional possibility. Gaia luminous, Homo luminous, going across that bridge from duality to oneness, from fear to trust, from despair to hope, from chaos to beauty. There's an ancient Indian prayer from the Rig Veda. Lead me from darkness to light, from falsehood to truth, from death to immortality. And all of this is a matter of perception. As we perceive, so it is. So we are entering now into the perception of Gaia. Who is she? How does she experience this physical earth? How does she experience us as a human species within this community of life? Notice how you experience Gaia. Do you see her as a certain form, or is it an expanded realm of consciousness? Is it a feeling? Is it a combination of factors? Is it a state of consciousness? Is it a stillness, peacefulness, vastness? Within which the personal self begins to dissolve. What does your planetary self feel like, look like? The Earth's memories are held within the waters of the ocean, within the crystals of the earth, within the power of the wind and the breeze that blows through all things, within the fire that rages at the heart of all things, within the ether, what we call the Akashic records. The Earth's memories are held within our own DNA, our own bodies, every cell. Through any given cell, if you go deep enough, you experience your planetary body. And then through that, even further out into the vastness of the cosmos. So from this space of connection with the heart of Gaia, we become guardians of Gaia. From this space of guardianship, we can then create Gaia's gardens, these communities. Where does community come into unity? What is unity? It's not a mental idea. So begin to experience that. Begin to experience coming into unity. That space from which true community can emerge. And then as you experience that, if there's something you would like to share with each other in the chat room, please do so. We're each one of us cells within the body of Gaia. Each one of us has a unique function and purpose within the plan. So many of us hear the term being used, trust the plan. And it's not just something that's external to us, that a few people know and understand. It's also emerging through each one of us. Because ultimately it's all Gaia's plan. It's all the Divine Mother operating through Gaia, through each one of us, through the entire cosmos. It's a mighty evolutionary plan. It's the greatest joy and privilege to surrender to this. To serve this with all our hearts, all our minds, all our soul, all our strength. My friend David Shurjan, my co-host with Age of Pandora, has been working on very similar ideas. I think this last podcast, I wasn't there with him for this since I was traveling, but he mentioned something, what's he call it, messy perhaps? I forget what it stands for, but it's also similar to what we're talking about. It's a model of community. Marianne says, I kept hearing a humming when connecting to the heart of Gaia, like a tone or a note. Beautiful. I want to say a little bit more about this. This is a Himalayan practice, actually, that the ancient yogis practiced and taught. Is called the sound current. And just like when you're under an electrical wire, you can hear that humming, right? That tone as electricity passes through the power lines. In the same way, as you listen to the tone of your own soul within your head, you can begin to distinguish that very specific tone. And what you're talking about, Marianne, is maybe going beyond your human sound current to connect with the sound current of our beautiful planet. There's actually tapes from NASA where they've recorded the sound of all the different planets in our solar system, and quite amazing harmonies. So I'm very curious how this compares to some of those tones. But yeah, please keep working with that. Keep listening to that tone and following that as far as you can with it. Noticing how it changes, how it grows and transforms. It's very soothing. Rena says, feeling floating to beauty and healthy connection and leaving chaos behind. On a level of Gaia's consciousness, there's no chaos. Or chaos is the birthing of new form. Anna says, I just had a past life regression which showed me why my fifth center is so challenged lately. Little expected that. Thank you. The fifth center is about creativity. Edith, I talk to my cells, I call them girls. They talk back to me and let me know what they need. Aho. Yes, Nessie. What does Nessie stand for? Do you remember? Francesca says, from a planetary perspective, all of this recent activity becomes less significant. It's big for us, but our life is transient, like that of a butterfly. To momentarily step out into Gaia's perspective, being in love, 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 is a wonderful reminder. Then Marianne says, that's so cool that I didn't imagine the tone. Yeah, no. Many people have actually been hearing this tone in different ways. And sometimes it's an actual sound that has a vibration that you can pick up through your feet. I remember the first time I was in Glastonbury. Must be about 20 years ago. And it happened to be summer solstice, and I was on the tour, and I could feel the stone right up through my feet, and it was so loud and so vibrant. It was like my whole body was shaking with it. And you can experience that in special places on this earth. But every place on earth is special. As so as you become the earth, you're opening to that vibrational frequency that otherwise only exists in certain power places or certain ley lines. But what we are here for is to make the entire earth sacred, or not to make it sacred, but to experience it sacred. So Jojo says, I could see the light of the universe filling me with that light until I merged with that light and became one of all that is and has been. Beautiful. Yes. Gloria says, thank you, Kiara. I felt like we will naturally flow in the right direction. And Jojo continues, I connected with the truth of the universe and saw myself in different lifetimes. Mm. Not just different human lifetimes, but also different planetary cycles, galactic cycles, even universal cycles. Sri Aurobindo says that we're now entering what he calls the seventh universe. And Francesca will talk about this more in our next class. The seventh universe, what that means for us now. And basically, what it's about is that we're entering a cycle of time where instead of climbing and falling, in this continual process of change, we're actually entering into a spiral, a climbing, ascending spiral, where we don't have to fall or collapse or die in order to experience change or rebirth. Okay, Nessie, New Earth Sovereignty Initiative. Thank you. Yeah, so guys, go listen to the latest Age of Pandora podcast from David. I haven't listened to it myself yet, but I'm curious to do that too. So he's been talking about Nessie and what that is about, and I suspect is not very different from what we're sharing here. Oh, Imogen. So great. Yes, it's 8 a.m. UK time. So we'll do this every Saturday. I've been trying to figure out a way um, to put this out there so that, it's like how you can create a live stream event. And I keep, every time I try and do this, it doesn't work. So I just, what I mean to say is I've been trying to set a reminder, and I can't figure out how to do that. But we'll just, meet up at this time every Saturday, as long as possible. So sometimes I may be on the road with less internet access, but most times I'll be available. I used to do this 3 times a week, and then realize it's not always possible to make the space for that. All right then, so let's continue onwards. So, just stay in this space, enter into this space whenever you wish. Anyone who would like to join me for the next cycle of meditation practices from various traditions, Francesca was part of a group that we were meeting sometimes 2-3 times every month on weekends to go deeper into self-awareness, into embodiment. So if any of you might be interested, just let me know. And what I'm looking at is maybe starting again in March or April for the next cycle through the months. And those of you who have been with me before or will, are welcome to join again. If anyone would like to start the next cycle, we'll figure out a time that works for everybody, because there's people all over the world, so it's not always easy to get in a single set of times that works for everyone. But as long as some people are willing to go late or be up early, we're learning to go beyond time, beyond sleep anyway. Okay, Jojo, thanks. So if you could just send me an email, I'm going to put all that together. So I'll write my email address here. So Kiara@eternaldoorway.com. So any of you would like to start off a new cycle, please send me an email. Edith, okay, great. Imogen. Okay, great. So you've done Vipassana, Reiki. Super. Vipassana is amazing. You get to this point where there's no physical substance left. It's all energy. And when you connect with that energetic field, it's very easy to slip out of human identity and enter into planetary cosmic identity. It's like every cell becomes an entire universe. So meanwhile, I'll just note down these names. I'm just back from some travels, so I still haven't organized myself here. Okay, so Edith. Imogen. Jojo. Anna. Great. And just anyone else, just send me an email also. And I'll put together kind of a time and schedule. It may end up being late nights here in India, which means it would be earlier in the day in Australia, New Zealand, Europe, and maybe early mornings in the US, Canada. So we'll figure out some way that works for most of you. It'll be on weekends, so Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday, or something. So it's easier for people. All right, so thank you. Really appreciate all of you. Oh, Bellatrix, thank you. Bellatrix, Gemma. So great to have this global community. What a gift. So see you next Saturday. Same place, same time. And also, please check out our Age of Pandora podcasts. It's usually Tuesday, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, but it may be, slightly different depending on the guests we have and their availability. I think this next week, or in a couple days, we have Charlie Ward on again. So I'm really curious to talk with him some more and maybe ask some of these questions that many of you have been asking. What's going on out there? He's also been talking about the quantum financial system. And it's all about going beyond the outer struggle of good and evil, but entering into a place of power through which all of this can be resolved in a meaningful way. All right. Well, thanks all of you for being the gift you are. So blessings, much love. Be blessed.